It's the Aquarian Tarot. So I thought, oh, these images are kind of strange. I'm not really feeling this, but I'm going to keep trying to force myself to use this deck, right? So at first I was like, oh, it's strange, I want it. But then when I got it, I was like, it's strange, I don't want it. But I kept it for years, but I just didn't really use it. Then I would say around 2011 or so, one of my friends at the time, she had this Afro Brazilian deck, and she was just getting into tarot as well. Like, because I think I had done some kind of reading for her, because she wasn't into tarot or anything like that before we met. But so let me say this. So in 2010, I got attuned to Reiki. And when I got attuned to Reiki, I was like, oh, okay, this is something I'm going to be doing forever. And then I went on to get my Reiki 2. And when you get your Reiki 2, it makes you more psychic. So when I got my Reiki 2, it was like all of a sudden I could see things, I started hearing things. It was really freaky. And so I would do Reiki on people and I would hear different things in their bodies, but I wasn't comfortable saying I was a reader at that point. So I would do what's called body scans as a part of my Reiki practice. So people would come, we would sit, we'd have conversations, I'd put them on the table, and then, I would do the Reiki session, and then I would tell them sort of what I heard or what I saw while I had them on the table, and then I would give them different prescriptions and things like that. And that was around 2010. So that was with my Reiki 2. And then like really weird things were happening. Like somebody called me for a session and I started to feel like pain on my shoulders. I started to get hot. And I was like, when you get stressed, do you like feel it in your shoulders? Do you start to get hot? Blah, blah. She was like, oh my God, yeah. And this is over the phone. Like this is somebody I didn't know. So then I started like feeling things. So when I got my Reiki 3, then it was like, boom, like this is what you're doing. And one of my colleagues, his name is Sam Reynolds, he's an amazing astrologer. He invited me to come and do Reiki. He used to do this thing in New York called the Zodiac Lounge. So he invited me to come. Somebody referred me and he invited me to come and be a healer. But before he would hire you, he'd come and check you out. So he came to my house. I did Reiki on him. I gave him a body scan or whatever. And then one time he just invited me to like do readings. He was like, just come, just come. And so by then I had a couple of decks, so I had the Aquarian Tarot, which I really wasn't feeling. But then, as I was saying, I got the Afro Brazilian deck. I didn't know anything about Rider-Waite or Thoth or any of that. So this deck, for those of you who don't know, this deck is like, it's not Rider-Waite inspired at all. So I really had to use my intuition hardcore because the images. So that's what I would do. So I started going to these different festivals and things, getting invited to these festivals, and I would read for like $1 a minute. And so that's how I started reading tarot. And how did I learn? I taught myself. Like most everything I do. I taught myself. I read. I wasn't really into YouTube at that time at all. This was like 2011, 2012 by this point. So I started getting maybe I had about 3 or 4 decks, a couple of Oracle decks. Somebody had gifted me some like Archangel decks and things like that. I think I had like gotten a Louise Hay deck. I had a mermaid deck. So very like light energy decks. But again, I wasn't comfortable really reading for people. I was so self-conscious. So what did you love about it? Let me talk about what I struggled with first. So just like I was saying, so what I struggled with was because, again, I taught myself. I didn't know anything about Rider-Waite, as you see back here. I had these obscure decks that I was teaching myself on. So it was like pure channeling, pure intuition, blah, 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 blah. And for the longest time, it was like the cards were just a vehicle for my channeling, really. And then, so what do I love about it? What I loved was the atmosphere. And even now, like, even though it's over Zoom, but before COVID, people would come to my house. Like I said, I would make them tea. We just sit, we do the tarot, they pay me, they go home. I was like, this is great. I don't have to leave my house. People are like getting value because, again, at that time, I was doing spiritual baths. I was doing spiritual oils. I was making spiritually infused lotions and things like that for people's aches and pains. So people would come, they might get Reiki and tarot, or they might just get tarot. And then I'd like make them a little bag of something, send them on their way. And then I had the rest of the day to myself. I was like, what? This is great. So I loved that. I also loved, even though it freaked me out a little bit, that I could hear voices. I mean, even still, I still love that. I love the connection to spirit. I did a reading today. The other thing I love is that now it is a part of my other business. So I also do consulting with domestic violence, sexual violence organizations, and other organizations too, like other nonprofit organizations. And whether I'm doing like racial healing work or organizational development work or conflict resolution work, I find a way to weave tarot into that. So today, you know, I've had this contract. My friend and I, we've been doing work with this organization for, oh my gosh, I think we started working with them in May, I think, or March. Anyway, right from the beginning, I started weaving in working seasonally. I started weaving in working, meaning like zodiac seasons. So I started weaving ritual into the work, and I pretty much always end with a tarot reading, whether I'm working with a domestic violence organization or the nonprofit, or even, so this year I went to Germany in August to train the army, and I did ritual with them. So what do I love? I love spiritual work. I love spiritual work, and I love that I have been able to weave it into these other spaces. What do I struggle with? Trusting myself as a reader, for sure. Because I started in such an obscure fashion. And so now, you know, I've taken an astrology course because Sam also teaches astrology as well as being an amazing astrologer, because I wanted to understand the link between tarot and astrology. So I took that. So that makes me feel more comfortable. And I follow so many YouTubers now, and I have so many decks and so many guidebooks. And I also was into numerology. So it's like putting the numerology and the astrology and the tarot, like doing all of those things, bringing all those things together. I'm feeling much more confident as a tarot reader to say, yeah, I do this. Like, this is what I do. Other struggles, I think, coming out of the broom closet, I like to say. So letting people know that I do this work. I was pretty nervous about that for a long time, but now, because you just never know, you know, with me having this background, you know, again, I work with all of these different agencies and things like that. And sometimes I get nervous, not so much now, but when I first got this last year, I got it during the pandemic. People were like, what is that? Or some people would put in the Zoom chat, oh my God, are those tarot cards? Like, I love that background. And shout out to Tarot's Apprentice, because I saw him with it and I was like, oh my God, I must have that. So I started searching for it and I got it. So shout out to YouTubers also for like helping me to build my practice. And so many of the decks that I have now, back to what I love, so many of the decks I have now are from watching other YouTubers. So for example, I finally got the Isis Oracle because another one of my favorite tarot readers, Rosology, she would do her readings and I would always see this backing. And I was like, oh my gosh, I love this backing. What is this deck? And so I finally got this deck Saturday. I just got it this weekend. And then for Halloween, I typed in like spooky decks because now I'm in this phase of doing deeper shadow work through my tarot practice. I've been doing shadow work on my own for like 3 years as part of a group. But now I'm noticing that my decks, like I'm not like afraid of like going deep and dark and spooky. And so I love that as well. So I love that the way my cards are changing. So Bronia talked about spreads. So I've also like moved to where I'm creating my own spreads. So I went and got one of my tarot journals. And well, it's not just tarot, it's tarot, magic, Reiki, and my shamanic work is all in here. But anyway, so these were some of the spreads from like my Moonology deck and my Sacred Destiny deck. And I think this was the Work Your Light deck. And then I got to a place where I was like, wait a minute, I think I can create my own deck. So this was like the first iteration of my Magic Hours deck spread. And so now this is the spread now. And then, so that was like my 45-minute readings. That's my 45-minute spread. And then this is my 75-minute spread. So I love the way my work is evolving. And I talk about this a lot also because I have so many decks now working by zodiac season. I really love that because decks that I don't pull from often, because I have so many, it's like, oh my gosh, how many decks can you have? How many readings, can you use them? But doing things seasonally allows me to build these relationships with these decks. So I love that. And I think that's probably it. So I'd love to know, oh, and I absolutely love this Isis deck. Again, I just got it Saturday, but I love it so much. It's already giving me amazing readings in just the days that I'm using it. And yeah, like, share, and subscribe. But more than that, drop down and tell me your tarot journey or share your own video. And I will see you next time. Bye.